But let's keep talking about this. I didn't have a chance to look through some of the questions here in the chat as we were talking about this. Thanks, by the way, for the people saying that about my haircut and the... yeah, you saw master level players playing in questionable ways as well. Exactly. It's just, that's just the way it is. If you are born into that environment and if you're actually playing in that environment, that's absolutely the correct way to play. And I think that's really important. And yeah, as soon as I shave and cut my hair, I look so much younger here, but I decided to want to clean myself. Why doesn't David play Tekken? The best grappler ever, King, basically has his name all over the character. It's one of those games that, you know, David knows as well as anybody else that he only has time to play certain games. And so he's very selective in what he wants to play. So Tekken is not going to be one of the games in his wheelhouse because also he knows that game takes a lot more time to learn than a lot of other games. So he does enjoy Soul Calibur a lot. So I don't know if he's actually going to be playing that or not. So... yeah, there's probably no way that the Riot fighting game is not going to have great netcode, considering that the guys who created GGPO, like literally the guy who created GGPO, Tony Cannon, is working on that game. So fear not, the Riot fighting game will almost certainly have some of the best netcode out of everybody. I never really played Third Strike, still skinny. So the story of that is that I played a ton of New Generation, I played a ton of Second Impact, and those games kind of soured me on parries. I really was not a fan of the parry mechanic at that point in time. I still am not the biggest fan of the parry mechanic. I think it's a very, very flawed mechanic in fighting games. However... Third Strike came out right when I graduated college. Same thing with MVC2. MVC2 and Third Strike were the games that were in the arcade when I graduated from college. I got my job and I kind of stepped away from fighting games for about a year or so. And then afterwards I got back into it with CVS1 and CVS2. What a lot of people don't realize is the lifespan of a lot of those fighting games in the past was very short, right? So Third Strike came out, was wildly unpopular, did not get a lot of play in the United States. Then I got, then CVS1 and CVS2 came out and people were playing those a little bit more. So Third Strike didn't really get a lot of play until its resurgence in 2002 when it got back to EVO. Through a lot of people. I mean, it wasn't at EVO at 2002, I should say. It was not at EVO 2002 because nobody was playing it. And so the guys running EVO were like, nobody plays this game, so it's not at EVO. We don't care about this game. There was a 5v5 exhibition of US and Japan in which Japan destroyed us all. But just to give you an idea of where Third Strike was in 2002, Mike Watson in that 5v5 was using Yun and using Sorai Rengeki, the combo super. He was not using Ganejin. And then one of the players, what was his name, who came from Japan, which one was it? I gotta remember which one. He played Ganejin Yun and destroyed everybody. That's when we first saw Tokido doing the unblockables with Urien against Justin in the very viral clip that he unblockable Justin to death. And we all didn't know about a lot of that stuff. Some of the Third Strike players knew about it, but most of the people in the audience had no idea what was happening. When Tokido was doing those unblockables, we were like, why isn't Justin blocking? And we didn't realize what was happening. That's how far behind we were in 2002. Third Strike got the resurgence after that. And by that point, I was already full on into CVS1 and CVS2, etc. I still didn't like parries. I thought the game was wildly unbalanced, which it still is, because Yun, Chen, and Ken clearly still way better than a lot of the other characters. And it wasn't until around after there that Third Strike really kind of took a life of its own. And as a result, I never got into it. I never played it. And I also mistakenly started hating the game a little bit more later on. I didn't even dislike the game. It was my favorite game to watch Japanese high-level play. I had like all these videos which I would just watch Japanese high-level play all day with on Third Strike, and I loved it. But the thing that actually made me start hating Third Strike, and this was around 2009, by the way, this is late that I started kind of really, like, I was always kind of on the negative side of it just because of how much everybody praised the game. But in 2009 is when I ran into someone who was just like, Third Strike is the greatest thing ever. Look how bad all these other games are that have mechanics that exist in 99% of the other fighting games, just not Third Strike. Look how great this game, all these games suck. And this guy was so high on Third Strike that it really just kind of made me get to the point where I really started hating it. So that was kind of frustrating. You are not born in the lag, CeroBlast. You play offline plenty. That guy was not David. It was not David, C-Tech. And in fact, at one point in time, David was also down on Third Strike when I first met him. But that was also probably because he was mostly a Q player and he started understanding the game more. Now he loves the game the best. So yeah, Third Strike took a while for it to become popular here. But yeah, CeroBlast, your style of wild play is not lag-induced wild play. Your style of play, CeroBlast, is more of the overwhelming type of play. Lag-induced, maybe. But the thing about it is, and you know, I love analyzing players, and I love talking about the different strategies that a lot of players have. The thing about fighting games, the way fighting games work, is that you're trying to throw the opponent into situations they are unfamiliar with as much as possible, or just throw them for a loop as much as possible, because the best players, like Problem X, who have played the most matches online, are so familiar with every situation that can come up in the game that it's hard to throw them off guard. It's hard to throw them for a loop. Every time you put them into a situation, they've seen it before, they're used to it, they've experienced it, they know how to react to it, right? A lot of players out there are very strong by controlling the match, by controlling the pace, by controlling what the opponent wants to do and what options they have. One of the best ways to blow up those players is to continually just throwing them into not even necessarily unfamiliar situations, but a new situation that they're just not prepared to think about, right? So it's not that you're throwing unseen things at them. What you're doing is you're just changing the situation so quickly, so rapidly, so frequently that they have to spend a lot of times catching up. So they're like, oh God, Ken's running at me. Oh wait, he just did an upper. Wait, why did he upper? I'm on the ground. Wait, no, oh my gosh, I gotta deal with the, he threw me. Okay, now I'm in the throw. What, he backdashed? Nobody backdashes in that. Oh, he ran back at me. Ah! And that is my description of your style of play, CeroBlast, is that the way you play is your goal is to make sure that the opponent never has a chance to gather themselves to actually gather what the situation is. You're changing it so frequently, you're throwing things out there a lot, but it's all so calculated on your part, which is what makes it beautiful. It's not like crazy random online Ken style. It's just you have such a control over changing the pace and throwing different things, and your tree of options is so wide and you're so good at picking which one you're pretty sure is gonna throw off the opponent that's how you win a lot of your matches. Yes, 0 time to adapt, what Shin Baxter says, is actually very true. It is a calculated randomness, but it's done in such a smart way. And that's my favorite thing about the way that you play, CeroBlast, if you're still in the chat. You can tell me if I'm wrong or right, but that's how I perceive your gameplay. That is how I analyze your style of play. It's a very calculated, crafty way to keep the opponents on their toes so they can never react to what you're doing, and that's awesome. CeroBlast says it in the chat right here. That's kind of right. That's really cool. But it's an effective style, and you've honed it into a science, right? I mean, it's the Gamble Seth style. It's the Marn style. It's the original Punko style, right? You've been honing it, and you've kind of perfected it down to a really, really, really smart way to do things. So you are getting a Chen logic in the chat. Oops, you are getting a Chen logic in the chat because I like the way that you play, CeroBlast. I really like the way you play. So, any other questions? With that, like I said, I always want to just do a session where I talk to the chat. ASKJCHENSOR is what I call it. Or if you guys want to also talk about that whole, I mean, part of this discussion with CeroBlast was about the being born and raised in the lag. Kazunoko playstyle is very similar, except not as offensively oriented, I guess. So CeroBlast tries to make sure that he overwhelms you, right? Kazunoko just wants you to second guess yourself all the time. And it's not even just on the offense, it's on the defense as well. It's in the neutral. Kazunoko just does things, and he wants to make you question yourself. He wants to make you question your decisions and wants to make you second guess yourself, basically. That's what Kazunoko does. It's less of trying, because like what CeroBlast is trying to do is more of a kind of like overwhelming, enveloping the opponent to the point where they can't think about what they're doing because they're unable to defend against what CeroBlast is doing. Kazunoko just wants to make you spend the entire time doing Dimitri's draw animation from Darkstalkers, where he's posing like this, and you see question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. That's basically what Kazunoko's trying to do, and that's the cool part. Gold Carrots ask, and also make sure you type an @jchensor in the chat so I will be sure to see the question a little bit. So I'll answer Gold Carrot's question first. Would the concept of footsies apply to all fighting games? Yes. The concept of footsie applies to all fighting games. The concept of footsies applies to FPSs. The concept of footsies applies to MOBAs as well. It's just about learning how to engage your opponent and judging the space and controlling the space and the options and the attack vectors that your opponent has against you. Every video game, competitive game practically has footsies. Okay, maybe not Hearthstone, but a lot of competitive games actually have footsies, and it's understanding attack vectors. This next year, last year I promised I was going to do a bunch of first attacks again. I didn't do any. This year I'm going to do it again, so I will definitely be talking about attack vectors again, which is a huge important concept in fighting games that I'll be talking about a little bit. So yes, footsies are everywhere. Footsies are everywhere. Then Hefnoff says, I'm born in the lag, yet I think I'm okay and I did decently at EVO. So for me, how can I identify what habits I should keep and what habits are more online based? Mostly, Hefnoff, is if you're basing a lot of your gameplay on catching people unexpectedly, not in the CeroBlast way, by the way, not in the calculated way, but more just, you know what, they're not going to expect this light Rasenha from Karen right now, or they're not going to expect this, you know, the best way to understand what's real that works offline and what works online is understanding human reactions and what they can react to. If you're just trying things and hoping that they get hit or hoping that they don't see this, like for example, oh, what character do you use, Hefnoff? What character do you use? That would actually help me a little bit. But for example, if you're a Urian player and you rely on using EX tackle to just hit people because they're not blocking, that's not going to get you super far, right? That's not, although it's a valid tactic, it's not going to get you far without having a lot of reads on when the opponent is walking forward and stuff, which is where a lot of Guile players use EX Sonic Booms, for example. Oh, Footsies is in Smash, 100% BB gun. That is 100%. There's Footsies all over that. So let's see here. Showbiz asked, oh, you play Alex. Yeah, okay. So that's right. I've seen you play Alex before. You've played on my stream before using Alex. I remember that now. So one of the tough things to do is, like, if you're relying on, for example, doing the EX elbow slash to just catch people unawares, that's kind of tough. Dashing up and power bombing somebody is a viable tactic, but only if you understand how to train your opponents in the footsies. If you're getting the crouching medium punches and the standing heavy kicks, and getting them scared to hit buttons. If you're reading that you're getting them scared to hit buttons, and then you dash up and power bomb them, that's one thing. If you're just trying to dash power bomb them because you're just like, they're not going to expect it at this point, then that is where the mindset needs to change. That will work online because your Alex will be here and then will be halfway through the dash before they see the dash, depending on where the lag spike comes from. But in an offline environment, that doesn't work. That's called wish. People make the joke about wish punishing, and so wish punishing is, just throwing out moves and hoping you whiff punish it. For me, my equivalent of the footsies of wish punishing is Hopesies. If you're playing a Hopesies, and basically you're just hoping your opponent runs into things, or hoping that they're not going to react to something, you're basically playing it incorrectly. You want to be training your opponent. You want to have an educated guess as to why that would actually work. So you want to be playing footsies and not Hopesies. So that's kind of where it goes right there. I never did analyze the reverse OCF on Team Japan at Canada Cup, but that would actually be super fun to do, CeroBlast. I'm going to put that down in my list of topics to do here. And CeroBlast reverse OCV analysis, because I think that would be super sick to do. That would be really, really super sick. So Showbiz, before I get back to Heafnoffs, he says, so I should use footsies to set up like dash up power bomb, not just do it randomly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Showbiz asks, I've been trying to figure out how Knee could consistently win. Only lost 2 sets during the weekend in Pakistan. Very similar kind of situation, Showbiz, as to what I mentioned earlier with what a lot of top players do, right? Knee has played so many games of Tekken 7, and he understands the game so well that it's very rare to throw him into a situation in which he does not kind of have control of the situation. When he gets knocked down, he knows his opponent's options. When he's in neutral, he knows what the opponent's probably looking for. If there's fighting a Josie, she's going to be trying to mix up between the step kicks and stuff like that. If he's fighting against Jax, he knows that he's got to be careful of the, whiffing buttons, because he can get whiff punished easily by a raw launch down forward too. He knows the game so well that every situation he's in is so well known to him that doing the correct thing is like second nature. What a lot of us would do is we'd get tired, we'd get worn out, we'd get, oh my God, how do you even maintain your mental faculties? The thing about it is, Nia's playing so much, he's so good at Tekken, that the amount of mental faculties that he's using compared to the rest of us is so small that his endurance is going to be that much better. A lot of times when you play fighting games, you're very tired afterwards. You're like, oh, God, I had to do all this thinking and blah, blah, blah. But Nia is just so familiar in all those situations. He's probably at a very strong sense of calm and relaxation in a lot of situations. Even when he gets knocked down, the panic isn't there. Because even if you are right, so let's say Nia guesses wrong and he gets hit by an Oki option, he still won't panic because he's like, oh, I guessed wrong. That's the situation that occurs when I guess wrong. I'll get hit by that. But he now immediately knows what to do after getting hit by that. So he guessed wrong, got hit, but now he's like, oh, now I'm in this situation, whatever, right? No panic. That is the situation where CeroBlast's strategy would have problems against. If he fought against a player that knew every situation, every time he got the right confusing read on the opponent and knocked them down, the opponent wouldn't get overwhelmed by him. That's the tricky part. So it's very player specific on who you can beat or not with that kind of strategy, and that is probably the #1 weakness of that strategy. Yeah, Bonchan, no panicking, absolutely. Oh, thank you, Devil from Turkey. Thank you. I'm glad you love my voice. I hate my own voice, but that's just the way it goes. Everybody hates their own voice. Oh, what's up, Bizarro Mike? How you doing? How's it going, sir? Hope things are going well with you. Hope things are going well. Oh my God, Aqua Silk. Is that the Aqua Silk? Jason, is that the Aqua Silk? Or is that not the real Aqua Silk? Is that a fake Aqua Silk? Oh man, sorry, I'm totally getting sidetracked here. Is that not the real Aqua Silk? Because if that's not, that would make me sad. Trolled. Okay, that's not the real Aqua Silk. I'm super sad. Because Aqua Silk is a true legend. So Hefnoth, going back to this, he's asking, taking things back to basics, I feel like it's a very difficult to define footsies. How would you, oh, he had 529 in his name, gotcha. How would you define footsies? So footsies, so basically the whole concept of fighting games and of any competitive game really is that your character usually has advantages over your opponent in specific situations, right? The whole concept of these competitive games is you want to put yourself where your character has a natural advantage over the opponent, right? The problem is that when both of your characters are walking around and neither of them have the advantage currently, your whole goal is to get yourself into that position of advantage. That is footsies. Footsies is the concept of putting yourself in an advantageous position. Because if you're playing in neutral 100% of the time, and both of you are playing footsies 100% of the time, your chances of winning are going to be low. Because you can get out footsied, you can out footsie them, it's just not fun. It's a 50-50 situation. You have no advantage over your opponent. However, if you could put yourself into an advantageous position so that the opponent has like an 80-20, like a 20-80 chance of guessing right, and most of the paths are going to lead to him taking damage, such as forcing him to block a jump in, such as getting a knockdown. You want to be in that. Why would you want to stay in neutral footsie? Why would you want to stay in neutral where you both have an equal chance of doing damage to the opponent when you can put yourself into a position of advantage where you can actually do a higher percentage chance of doing damage to the opponent? That is footsies. Footsies is the act of getting yourself transitioned from neutral to advantage. That is the concept of footsies. That is how I describe footsies, which is why I think it makes sense in every game. And you're playing League of Legends, if you're fighting against somebody, let's say this person has better ranged attacks but no good close-up ones, your footsies are going to be trying to get your champion next to their champion so you can deal your higher melee damage than their ranged damage, right? If you're playing a first-person shooter, if you're playing Overwatch, for example, and you're a sniper, your footsies are going to want to be playing at a far range from the opponent. And of course, in FPS it's a little different because there's a lot more team aspect. I'm doing a very James lack of knowledge Overwatch comparison here. But if you're playing against the brawler, you want to play far away, so the footsies of the brawler to fight the sniper are going to try to find a way to get out of the sniper's vision, hide behind things, and find a way to sneak up on the sniper, etc., etc. That's basically the way that footsies work, is how do you maneuver your character to the advantageous position so that you can do extra damage. That's basically how it is. So Dude, it's so crazy, Devil. That match right there that you talked about, the SoCal Regionals 2010, Daigo versus Vi, I still remember that match. And me and David, after that match was done, we were like, yo, that was such a great match. That was some of the best commentary we've ever done. And when we go back and watch it nowadays, we're like, man, this is terrible commentary. But it's gotten better over time now, and you know, it's interesting, but speaks to the fact that it's great that David and I are very keenly aware of the fact that we are still improving even after all this time. Like, if you watch that match, there's a lot of time that's spent with me and David going, ooh, oh, ooh, ooh, oh, 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 you know, and let's like, there's only like 2 people who are allowed to ever do that, right? Like Yipes can 100% do it, and you know, maybe Tasty Steve can do something, but Tasty Steve doesn't even do it that much. So you know, that's just the whole thing, is like, Tasty Steve can do whatever he wants. That is 100% true. He can do, he can run the gamut. He's absolved from everything. So but yeah, so there you go. That's Footsies right there. And Showbiz says, the spacing mind games is my favorite part in fighting games. Mostly why I enjoyed MK11. And yeah, different fighting games are going to have different situations. And it's really like, even if you watch something like UMVC 3, you're like, there's no footsies in that game. Look at Zero. No, that's actually not true. The footsies in UMVC 3 are immaculate. Like, some of the best footsies you're going to get in fighting games come from UMVC 3. The difference between UMVC 3 and a lot of other games these days is, remember when I said you want to put yourself into the advantageous position, right? You want, your whole goal in neutral is to put yourself in an advantageous position. The difference is that in Street Fighter 5, well, let's say Street Fighter 4, okay? Street Fighter 4, when you knock the opponent down and gain the advantage and get the advantageous position, you're putting yourself at maybe a 70% chance to do damage to the opponent, right? There's a lot of good ways, maybe even 60% damage because of uppercut FADCs, backdashes, focus attacks, etc. There's a lot of ways to get out of that situation. You have a 60%, so that's the advantage you put yourself in. In Street Fighter 5, when you knock someone down, you probably put yourself into about an 80% chance of doing damage to the opponent, because the opponent getting up is in a really terrible situation, right? Now, in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the difference is whenever you knock someone down, if you have someone like Virgil or Zero, you're putting yourself into probably a 95% chance of doing damage to the enemy. So the game has immaculate footsies, some of the best footsies that you'll see in the early match. But then as soon as someone gets the clean, confirmable, convertible hit into the death combo, into the mix-up, then that's where things get scary. And it's why Marvel looks like it doesn't have footsies, but as soon as you escape that, you're back to the footsies, and again, it will generate some of the best footsies in fighting games, in my opinion. Dude, Heathnob says that UMVC 3 is one of his favorite games. No, it wasn't Apology Man. It was GC Yoshi just put out the tweet. He was like, with all this recent stuff about dumbing down games and all this stuff, I've kind of come to realize that UMVC 3 might be the greatest fighting game of all time. I don't think he's very far off. 100%, I will 100% admit, I don't think he's that far off. I think UMVC 3 is a fantastic fighting game, and in the end might be one of the strongest fighting games of the past decade. It's especially the way it's evolved. At one point in time it got bad, and then it just recovered, and now UMVC 3 I think is probably one of the most refined fighting games out there, actually. Yeah, so Nutacon says, I really struggle to understand what footsies in DBFZ is because of Super Dash, Vanish, and Beams. And that's the interesting part, and I have talked to you about this before, Nutacon, a little bit, very briefly, the concept of attack vectors. The reason why DBFZ footsies are tough is because they are so uncommon, right? You don't get the opportunity to play footsies because at any point in time they can vanish right next to you or super dash next to you. But that's part of the footsies. Part of the footsies is playing against the opponent so that you leave yourself open to a vanish or a super dash to bait them into doing it so that you can 2H them. That is where the footsies come from. That's part of the footsies. Even though it feels like vanish and super dash are bypassing the footsies, what you understand is if you have your character here and they're facing this way, one of the attack vectors of your opponent is always going to be from behind and the sky, right? If your character facing this way, an attack vector of the opponent at any point in time is from over here. So you keep this attack vector in mind. You just have to play around this attack vector. So when you're playing neutral in Dragon Ball, if you're dashing around, running around, again, hoping that they don't vanish, you're not playing footsies, you're playing Hopesies. What you want to do is play neutral in a way so that your character is always free as much as possible to be on the ground to 2H a vanish, so that you take away that option. And then if you can play that neutral on the ground and jumping into the air in careful situations where their vanish isn't very useful, then you can start finding a way to hit them with your beam, lock them down, and rush them in. You have the advantage now. Now they're blocking. Now this attack vector doesn't exist anymore, right? That's the whole concept. If you are playing it, or there's a second way to play it. There's actually absolutely a second way to play it, which is play so much that you're baiting their vanish, that you purposely put yourself in a vanishable situation where their assist can't hit you, so that they vanish and kick you in the back of the head and launch you clear across the screen, and you recover and you're back to neutral, but they have one less bar. You can absolutely take vanish on purpose. You can play the game in such a way that they can't combo into an assist off of their vanish. That's another part of the footsies. Being aware of their assists so that when they vanish, you know they can't combo into you. Then you can play a little wild, let them vanish, let them kick you. Who the F cares? Because they knock you across the screen, they can't combo off of it, and you wasted one of their bars. You're just gonna be like, whatever, I'm gonna sparking and get this back eventually, or I'm gonna tag this guy out and get that life back eventually. I really don't care. And so that's another part of the strategies, basically. So that's basically what it is. Oh, that was the real Aqua Silk, was that? Oh, dang, but he didn't respond. Man, okay. Oh, Attack Vectors was your favorite episode of First Attack. Okay, yeah, I'd love to do an updated one of that one, so. Hopesies are dopesies. Since many people don't like the guessing game in a wake-up situation, would it be better for characters to have worse Okazeme overall in Street Fighter V? I feel like I don't think that the Okazeme being really rough for people in Street Fighter V is a bad thing. That's just part of the game. However, for the sake of making people enjoy the game more, I would like to see one new defensive option from getting up off the floor, only because psychological, right? I've talked about this example a lot. Tekken was actually one of the games that was really hard for people to get into, and a lot of people did not enjoy playing the game at first because the Oki was probably more harsh than it currently is in Street Fighter V. This was up until about Tekken 6, where the Oki game was really brutal. If you actually tried to get up and the opponent read your pattern, you just got comboed again. You got refloated, big combo, you got knocked down, they read you're gonna do a different thing, they refloat you up, combo you, you died. And that was it, right? And then in Tekken Tag, they kind of gave the Superman attack, you know, as a way to bail yourself out of situations by Supermaning your teammate in. And then in Tekken 7, they made getting up easier than ever before. I don't know the exact details. This is exactly what everybody's told me, is that Tekken 7, it's easier to get up than before. So now, basically when the opponent knocks you down, you can get up off the floor and not get destroyed as badly unless you're in the corner, obviously, but you can get up a little bit easier than you could before. And now, everybody loves playing Tekken. People love the neutral in Tekken because they get back to it more, and a lot more people are playing the game. Granted, it helps that Tekken 7 is also super fun and really cool and just makes you feel like a badass whenever you do awesome things. That helps a lot too, but the fact that a lot of people like to play is based on the fact that they get up again and get to play neutral again. Street Fighter V has very interesting neutral. It's just a lot of people, and all of the highlights that you see are the comebacks and the destructions of just once you knock them down. But again, that's the nature of Street Fighter V, right? Like I said, when you knock someone down, that's like an 80% chance for destroying people, right? That's part of the game. That's your reward for getting the knockdown. And it's cool. It's not a problem. It's just that you have to understand that that's what you're dealing with. The problem is that psychologically nobody wants to deal with that, and it doesn't feel fun to people. If there was a way to get knocked down on the ground, stay on the ground so that the enemy gets one free hit on you and that rolls you up, then people would be like, oh, okay, now I can get back to neutral a little bit better, and I enjoy this game much more now because now I'm back into neutral. Like, they're still going to lose to better players, but just because they got up, they're going to feel that much happier. They're going to feel that much more comfortable, and they're going to feel more like that they had a chance. So I would like them to add a new Okazeme tool just so people can feel more comfortable with the game. I guarantee you they're all still going to die to better players. The better player is still always going to win. It's not Guess Fighter 5 like everybody calls it. That's just the nature of the game. That's how you play the game. You get rewarded for the knockdown. Guilty Gear has really brutal Okazeme knockdown games, right? Milia is virtually unblockable. You just have to guess, right? But everybody loves Guilty Gear. And it's just because of a psychological aspect. Street Fighter V, in my opinion, suffers the most from psychologically making players feel good. I've been repeating this over and over and over again, but 100% I think that's what Street Fighter V's biggest problem is it doesn't give you the satisfying zoom-in counter hits that Tekken does, or the awesome Roman cancel, oh my god, I totally, improvised this combo and it worked, god, I'm a badass, kind of things like that. You know what I mean? Street Fighter V is kind of missing that, and because all the combos are the same combos that everybody else is doing, you don't really even get to show off that much when you do hit the opponent. And so a lot of times people, that's why, in my opinion, that the teabag kind of became prolific from Street Fighter V, is because it's the only way to really show your opponent you're in their head, basically, kind of thing. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's kind of where I'm at this point in time. So I am a Tekken 7 shill, Mike. Oh, man. Let's see here. What else? Auric, which part are you referring to about ruin the game for every character that has a gameplay based around getting knockdowns? Oh, yeah. The idea of staying on the ground and getting hit and rolling back up. Yeah, of course. But, that's the thing is, do you sacrifice one character's gameplay or 3 characters' gameplay to make everybody happier playing your game? That's the question. That's the main question right there. Those of us who are knee-deep into, knee-deep, it wasn't supposed to be an intentional pun, but I'll use it. Those of us that are knee-deep into their fighting game understand that that would make the game a little more boring. But for all the casuals trying to get into the game, that is the true making the game feel a little bit more beginner-friendly. So, saw my video on the economy of buttons, and I have to say it is better to press buttons because whiffing a long recovery button can have you eat a punish or jump in combo. That video helped me a lot. Yes, the economy of buttons. I've always said that. If you imagine you're playing a fighting game and every time you hit a button it costs you $1, in order to win a game, you're going to spend as little money as possible, so you're going to try to hit every button only when you really, really have a reason to hit that button. Then you're playing fighting games correctly. then you're playing fighting games correctly. This is all stuff on oh yeah, Urian does get to be stylish. Those videos are all on UltraChenTV. I'm sorry, youtube.com/UltraChenTV. If you go over there, thank you Good Eats for the subscription. Thank you very much. 7 months now. Appreciate it much. So basically, if you go to youtube.com/UltraChenTV, look for the playlist that's called like Teaching Fighting Games. It should be in there, but I'm planning to redo all those videos this next year. I've got to be better about it. I've got to be. And A Stranger 23, that's why I love Bison's V-Trigger 2 so much. Bison's V-Trigger 2 to me is one of the most enjoyable V-Triggers because it gives you all that stuff. It's why I love Lucia so much right now. It's why I'm kind of in this weird Lucia high, because I just think Lucia is the coolest character because she does so many neat things and it makes me super excited every time I play her. She's just fun. She's got so many combo routes and she's got a lot of creative things that you can do, and it's really, really fun. Dude, and that's the thing, Big 4 Ill. Like, a lot of people, it's just the in thing to hate on Street Fighter V. But all the people who play Street Fighter V really enjoy the game right now. I was on Shine's stream, and he's playing Lucia because he loves her to death so much as well. And he was like, man, can you imagine if Lucia was in Season 1? Like, people wouldn't even be complaining at this point in time, because she's so fun, right? Like, all these top players, they really enjoy Street Fighter V, but, you know, the thing is, if you're a person on the internet and someone likes something that you don't like, it always has to be either for money or to get women, or because someone is, you know, or someone is coercing you. Nobody believes anybody because they just genuinely like something. There always has to be a reason for liking something. You know, that's always the problem with it. And yeah, first impressions absolutely count. So like a lot of people, and yeah, when Street Fighter V first came out, the launch was mediocre, lukewarm to say at best, right? At best. And so, you know, a lot of people mad at the game had reasons to be mad, but the current state of Street Fighter V, I actually think is in a really good place. I think it's in a really good place, but it's very late now, and a lot of people don't want to see it, and I think that's kind of trouble. I think that's kind of troublesome. So, $25 to get everything in Street Fighter V, dude. It's a good deal. Or $30 if you don't own anything. Yeah, net play is definitely one of the biggest issues, and the thing about it is, you know, everybody knows this. Everybody knows this, and they're probably trying to do their best to see if they can get it fixed. But again, you know, you got to worry about Japan, Capcom. You know, it works great over there. It works fine in Japan, so it's hard. It's hard to convince them. It's hard to convince them to fix it. So. You play Street Fighter V and Tetris so that James likes me. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I do like you then. I do like you. That's not even, well, Kappa faces. I see what's going on there. Okay. I don't like SF5. I don't like Capcom's handling of it and the way they do DLC. But if people like SF5, that's cool. Now, what's wrong with their DLC? I don't know what's wrong with Street Fighter V DLC, because I feel like Capcom has handled Street Fighter DLC better than any other fighting game so far, right? I buy Mortal Kombat on 2 consoles because I want to have Mortal Kombat on 2 different consoles. I don't have the season passes on on the Switch because it's expensive. I bought Dragon Ball on the Switch. I don't have the season passes there. Capcom actually discounts their season passes all the time. All the time. And now every 2 years they release a hard copy that you can buy that has everything on there. That, to me, I think is handling it better than anybody else. Okay, you might talk about the fight money. The fight money option doesn't even exist in any other fighting game. Right? Like, you can be mad at the fight money concept, but it's still, there's a way to get a character for free that doesn't exist in any other fighting game. So again, I don't know what's wrong with the DLC for Street Fighter. I think it's fine. Yeah. Tekken is awesome. Tekken is amazing. C-Tech. It's really, really great. Really, really great. Let's see. Yeah, Tekken Season Passes haven't been great, and now if you don't have a Season Pass, you also have to pay $4 for frame data, which I'm totally willing to do, so... Yeah, yeah, see, there you go, a stranger. But if you have the Season Pass, you get the $4 frame data for free. So there you go, that's fine. And it does. It feels like Capcom is experimenting with each season. I said this in my last stream, that if Karen came out now, like let's say Karen was a Season 4 character, she would 100% have had her Rekkas from Alpha 3 not locked behind a V-trigger. She just would have had the Rekkas right there from the get-go. They would have been willing to make her a little bit more complex like that. Season 1 characters very much was a concentration on simplifying the characters. And as they've gone, you know, with the introduction of Zeku and Minot and Lucia and Poison and stuff, you know, having stance cancel combos with Poison, they've basically said, you know what, no, that was not the right direction. Let's make these characters fun. And so Honda, Poison, Lucia, even Kage, when he's not being good, he's still got some sick stuff and fun stuff to do. They've done a great job with Season 4, 3, and the last half of 2 in terms of DLC characters. So, yeah, Skullgirl's characters were free and a few weeks on the release, but that was also part of the Kickstarter. So they technically weren't free. The characters were kickstarted, essentially. So that's the way that works. People did pay for those characters in a way. So, I mean, if they made Fei Long have more than just Rekka, it'd be weird if he actually got options. I think that would be kind of weird. Do I think SF5 CE would be the final version of the game? I doubt it. I think Capcom is going to continue to support the game. I would hope so. I mean, it's going to be in the Olympics next year. It would be weird if they released CE and said, oh, here we go, we're done. But, like, they're going to get a big new audience from the Olympics thing that they're doing with Intel and stuff like that. So I would imagine that they would keep trying to develop the game just to capitalize on that audience. So oh, see, I don't know. Dude, Skeptic Gamer got super mad at me, and I don't know why he was that angry about it. Because then Justin said the exact same thing. When I was on Canada Cup doing commentary with him, I was talking about the Tekken frame data DLC, and Justin was like, dude, 100% I'm paying for that because I'm lazy. I'm paying to be lazy. And I was like, it's like, don't say that. People will get mad at you, dude. Did they hint that CE might be the final iteration? I haven't seen any of that information. If anybody has a link to that, I'd be more than happy to see that and see how that looks. So, it's just so I can see that. So, yeah, $10 cheapest for those who are getting updated. You mean $30 instead of $40? I'm sorry, $20 instead of $30? Yeah, I can see that. But, you know, I'm buying the disc anyway because I just want to have the disc with everything on there. Because here's my logic, is that if I have a disc with everything on there, now if I have the hard copy, because I don't know how digital works exactly, because digital is weird and strange to my old man brain. If I have the disc, then I can bring that disc to anybody's house. I can use it with any of my PlayStation accounts. So if I want to play a Smurf account, I have everything because it's on a disc. And if I bring it to my friend's house and they don't have Street Fighter V, it's on a disc. They get everything. So having the disc means I can play with everything everywhere. That's kind of my idea for it. So it will come with the passes. Well, if that's the case, then I might get boned. I might get screwed. I might get screwed. So I would hope it's all on disc. Maybe not. Maybe not. It would be cool if it was all on the disc. I think that would be sick. We don't know yet, actually. I never even thought about that, to be honest with you. So we don't know yet. And that is kind of an interesting concern. So anyways, anybody have any last questions? I've been doing the Q&A for about 45 minutes. I do want to get to the Learn to Fight section where I teach people how I play fighting games by playing Lucia on stream. So if anybody else has any other questions, if not, then I'm going to run an ad real quick, come back and do some stuff. What are my thoughts on Guilty Gear Strive? That's a long one. Save that for next stream, Gold Carrots. Save that for the next stream. Arcade Edition was the base game, but released with DLC code for all the content. Okay, so there you go. James, how do I stay looking so young? How many souls do I have to eat? The answer is Asian don't raisin. Asian don't raisin. So, all right, we'll be right back, guys. We'll be right back. Thanks for the sub, Bluefire132. I keep making it a thing that when people subscribe to my chat, I tell them to suck my nuts, Bluefire. But I don't know if that actually, if people don't get the inside joke, then it sounds mean. So I don't know if we'll do that. So in any case, we'll be right back after this short break. Switch to that and then put up the, we'll be right back. There we go. It's your favorite thing to retweet. Awesome, Bluefire. You got it. You got it.